Train to Busan is my pick for today. Came out 2016, and it is a South Korean film, and it's a zombie film. I know that right around this time, 2016, and even more so now, zombie films are sort of losing their edge or have lost their edge. Train to Busan did something really heartfelt in its tragedy and in its disaster storytelling that it's actually become one of my favorites. And I've never heard of it before, so I looked up a couple of reviews. 95% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I know that that's like not always the thing to gauge it by, but I think it earned its 95%. Absolutely. One of the great ways that it does this is, first of all, it tackles what to do with the zombies that you're gonna have in the film. The director was really smart. We are so used to seeing the Romero zombie, okay? That is the staple, it's the foundation of how we were gonna deal with zombies in Hollywood. And you know, once we got to 28 Days Later, we elevated that a little bit and changed the game. And so the director built on that. So it's very 28 Days Later with the running, the sort of rabid behavior. But there's some interesting choreography that's new. They do this wickedly strange contortion, twisting, moving, where it's almost like the center of their body is pulling them against their will. And one of the best illustrations I think I can show without really giving anything away in this film, it's this scene right here. What do you do? What do you do? You're on the train, you see that shit. I don't know. I love disaster films because they make me ask myself that question. What kind of person am I gonna become? What decisions will I make? Will I run? Will I stay? Will I fight for people? Will I find some ounce of bravery? You know, I don't know. This film, it tells a story that's based on people figuring out who they really are and struggling against their conscience and finding that they walk a very fine line between, you know, a really amazing person or a really shitty person. And our lead does that. So the whole premise of this film is that, you know, this guy, he works all the time, he's a single dad, he's going through a divorce, and he hardly spends time with his kid, and his kid, she wants to spend all her time with mom because she has a better relationship. And so she tells her dad, I wanna go to mom's, take me to mom's. And of course they have to get on a train to Busan to get to her. And he says, yes, we'll go. And so they end up on this train. He is borderline a selfish person because he's already not spending time with his daughter. And then he comes up against himself in a moment when the chaos breaks out on the train, when the infection spreads, and it spreads lightning quick. He's in the safe part of the cabin and the door is open and he sees two people, one of which is pregnant, by the way. She's running towards him, her husband's right behind, and some asshole in the back is like, shut the door, shut the door. You see him struggle with himself and he closes it, just in their face. Her husband comes up and he yanks the door open, they go inside and he closes it. And when it all dies down, he looks at him and he's like, I think you owe me an apology. And they have that exchange about the fact that, hey man, like, we're not infected, you could have killed us, and you know, you were the deciding factor of whether or not we were gonna make it to another minute of this day. And so that's the first time he comes up against it. And he only allowed that door to open because his daughter had already made a connection with this couple earlier before. So he was listening to his daughter became his conscience. So that's the beginning when we start to see a lot of this struggle with selfishness, his own humanity, and what kind of journey he's gonna be on throughout the rest of the film. When I was younger, I used to watch films, zombie films in particular, because they were my favorite, and I used to rant and rave all day long about how people made stupid decisions, and if that was me, and I was in that particular situation, nobody's getting near me, I'm not trying to save anybody, I'm not making friends, it's just me against the world and the people I care about, and that's it. I don't give a fuck. I'm surviving. And the older I get, you know, the more that I start to wonder if that's valid. Now in American films, we always see this reinforcing of that idea, what I was just talking about. We punish people who are kind in disaster movies. Take any zombie film. When has it ever been an okay situation, and when did we see in the storytelling that our characters were rewarded for saving somebody, letting someone into the group that they didn't know, someone who may have been injured, trying to help other people? What do? We shit all over them, and we're like, yeah, you made a fucking mistake. You let that fucking stranger in. Bye. This film was the first time that I actually thought about it in a different way. I suddenly was having a different side of that argument, and there is this other part to humanity we're always forgetting, and it's that people are good too. We're not just jerks all the time. Like, we actually have a lot of good in us. This film rewards people who do kind things about, 80% of the time in the film. So one of the scenes that I thought really showed the heart of that message in its characters is, so these guys are trying to get to their loved ones because they were separated. And so these guys have decided they're gonna fight their way through like 4 cars to get to the people that they're trying to save. Now, when they do this, one of these guys is a high school kid. He showed up on the train with his teammates, and he gets to this cab, he sees all his teammates, and he can't function. And we don't berate him. The guys don't castrate him on screen. They look at him with sympathy, and they say, it's okay. You don't have to fight this fight. We understand. There's also something else interesting that happens here too, but check out this clip. So at the very end of that clip, we actually see something different with our zombies, and this is where I can actually start talking a little bit more about how zombies play a role in this film. They get into the tunnel, and these zombies are face to face with their victims, and the second they get into that tunnel and the lights start flashing by, it's like they don't see them anymore. They're completely distracted, and here we have something new, some new information. They're not dependent on smell, they're dependent on sound and sight, the things that it like a fucking T-Rex, right, from Jurassic Park. So if you don't move, maybe they won't see you, which is an interesting part because we've gotten so used to like Walking Dead, they can smell you, and so it gives their characters a little bit more ammunition to survive by outsmarting their zombies, their attackers. Another thing, there's no gore. They didn't do this with severe amounts of gore. There's no spilling intestines, brains splattering everywhere. We get a little bit of carnage, and that's it, which I think is fantastic. Another thing we don't see, gunfire. This entire movie, nobody actually kills a zombie. We actually never learn how to kill them, so we don't even know if the rules apply here that if you shoot them in the head, they go down, because nobody has a gun. Kudos to the director for being able to achieve that. Train to Busan is a fantastic film that I highly recommend, especially if you're a fan of zombie films and you're looking for something a little bit unique, something that has a little more humanity in it than just blood, guts, gore, and gunfire. It's a great film, a great experience, so definitely check it out.